Hey, welcome to the Juice Podcast. I'm Carson Poppenger, and I'm here today kind of hosting. Nate Clegg is on injured reserve.
Pickleball accident.
Had a little pickleball accident. His back's hurting him, so he's out today. But I'm here with Jacob Thorpe, Justin Jump, and we have another guest here with us today, Brett Evanson. He's our Chief Technology Officer. And we're going to talk to you today a little bit about some of the technology initiatives we're working on and things. But before we get into that, the weather's starting to change. I know in this pod we've talked before about something that we all love, which is golf. And the weather's changing. Things are changing. Getting ready for winter here. We got some cold weather. But wanted to kind of talk about some final thoughts wrapping up the golf season this year. So Jacob, what are your thoughts on the golf game this year?
It's always like a period of grieving when the weather starts to change, because it's going to be a few months before we get back out there. We went on a fun trip this week or two ago to St. George, southern Utah, and played some great courses. We had a really good time. And this year was kind of an interesting year for me, for my golf game, I'd say. I would say I learned a lot this year. I started the season hot, and then the middle of the season I kind of struggled a little bit, and then towards the end of the season when I relaxed a little bit, kind of found some game a little bit more towards the end of the season. But it was fun. I feel like we played a lot this year. It was a little harder to get tee times with some of the courses around here. I feel like it's gotten so popular that it's a little bit tougher to get on.
You got to plan those out way in advance, seems like now. So
We need more courses here. There's not enough courses in Utah.
Yeah, it's true. We would do something called Magic Mornings, where we'd go out at like 5:45 and play before any tee times were technically available to the public.
Riley, thank you for that.
We see you. We value you.
Yeah, we would show up and there'd be a line at the gate, and then we would go in through the side entrance and just jump out onto number one and have a magic morning.
We'd be playing through some sprinklers for the first few holes, but we got out there.
We could get done quick. You can get done a lot faster that way too.
Jump, I feel like your game improved a lot this season.
It did. It actually did. So I was averaging close to 88, and now I'm down to like 81, 82.
Yeah.
So yeah, it got a lot better. I fixed my tempo. I've been given feedback that like my backswing is too quick. So like I'll come back too fast and try to come back on the same path, and I haven't been doing good. So got that fixed and been hitting my drives a lot better. And
I feel like you played really well this weekend too.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
You did. I actually have a clip. I have a clip that we'll have to show.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's show that.
I'll show the
now.
whole thing.
All right.
I think the fans will like that.
We turn on the horsepowers and let's send it shocking. Okay. Oh crap.
Carson, how's your game?
Good. I played a lot more earlier in the season. Earlier in the season, seems like before August, things got really busy for me in August, and I didn't really play a whole lot the last few months. But earlier in the year, it was good. I definitely play better when I can get out like twice a week. If I can't get out twice a week, I struggle. And it's all a feel thing, right? You lose the feel,
right?
Yeah, mental. You lose the feel for it a little bit, and you get out there, and it's like, game kind of goes to pieces or whatever. But it's been fun. We had a great time in St. George, and for those of you that aren't familiar with Utah or St. George, great golf destination. It's getting a lot of attention. So if you can get there, it's pretty accessible from California and from most of the West Coast. But St. George is down in southern Utah, and there's some of the greatest courses in the country are down there, like Sand Hollow, and they're all public. Sand Hollow. We played the Ledges last weekend.
They
Super
just
nice.
They just hosted a PGA event too at Black Desert. There's a lot of really, really good tracks.
Yeah, beautiful scenery. You've got some picturesque mountains. You've got black lava. You've got amazing views everywhere.
Elevation shots.
Yeah, elevation shots.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of fun down there. I think, just ranking the courses we played down there. Do you want to do like a ranking really quick?
All right, yeah, let's do
Like,
our top 5 St. George
Well,
courses.
Are we sponsored by the Ledges here? Because you've got some swag here.
Got some
I don't know, I just
swag. I
noticed
picked that up.
But
Yeah.
So Ledges is up there for me. I'd say for me, the courses that I played in St. George this year. You want to do St. George or Utah?
Let's do St. George.
St. George. I'd say for me, Sand Hollow is still probably number 1 with Ledges a close second. I really, really enjoyed Ledges a lot. 3, I'm trying to think. That's tough.
What's the 9-hole course we played last time? I liked that course.
Dixie Red Hills.
Yeah.
Dixie Red Hills is
It
great.
was fun.
That's
Good
fun.
course.
Yeah, if you're going out with like a pretty varied, skilled
It's a
group,
short course.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's really short.
It's got beautiful red rock all around a lot of the holes.
Yeah. Sky Mountain is probably number 3 for
Oh,
me.
yeah.
I love Sky
Underrated
Mountain.
for sure.
Yeah, it's one of those that when you play it, especially if you're from outside the state, it's amazing. It looks like it was like pulled from like the land of the dinosaurs and like dropped in Utah, and they've got this course along.
It was like
the
hole
side of it.
18. Hole 18 was
Oh.
like pretty epic. We played that at sunset,
Yeah.
and the views were incredible. And
Yeah.
you got to hit one just out into the
Yeah.
canyon as far as you can, kind of a thing.
If
Yeah,
it's windy, you're gonna have a tough day though.
Yeah.
for sure.
And it wasn't that day, so it was nice.
Yeah, it was perfect. I think Sunbrook's a pretty good track, like bang for your buck.
Yeah. One of my friends that I told we played Sunbrook, he said, "Oh, you got to play. Did you play Black Rock? I guess that's the
other one.
That's the other course we didn't play." He said
Yeah.
Black Rock is pretty epic.
3 9s. And then what other ones did we play this year? St. George Golf Club we played, but that's a good
Black
course.
Desert's nice. It's going private though soon. Like you have to stay at the resort, I think, or have a membership or something to play there. But
Yeah.
I played 9 there before it opened up fully, and it's pretty beautiful. It's right by Snow Canyon.
Yeah, I mean that would probably be top of the list if you really were.
Yeah.
were
It's
ranking
expensive,
them,
one of
but
the
it's-
most expensive.
I
they've
didn't,
got
I didn't know you
professional.
played that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Right before it opened, my daughter and I, it was a lot of construction going on and things. We were kind of driving through some dirt patches and stuff when they were building things. But if you don't stay on the fairway, you're in the lava
yeah.
rock and your ball's just going to go, it could bounce any
Bouncing all over the
direction.
place.
Yeah. And so
And you're not getting it.
they don't let you out into the lava to get it. So you can't retrieve any balls. But yeah, no, that's awesome. That's a pretty good recap on the golf season for the year. So any other thoughts on that at all?
No, just keep practicing. And I think the tempo thing, I'll end back on that, Liz. And I think this correlates with what we're going to talk about is slow down. Like we're in such a fast-paced world. Like same with your golf swing. Slow that thing down in the backswing and drive it through. And business concept, same thing. Take time to make sure you're making the right decisions and making the right tempo or decisions for your future and success.
Emotionally detached
Yeah.
from the
There we
result.
go.
Process over result.
we
go. Yeah.
Like take the time. I switched this year from a cut to a draw on my drive, and at first it was really, really hard. I was pulling, but I knew that if I could make that switch, I could get a little more rollout
Yeah.
and a little bit more distance. And it took a second, but once it took hold, my scores dropped dramatically. So sometimes you've got to take a step back, be patient with yourself, and you'll get good results that way.
I liked someone posted some advice a while ago that I liked, and they said if you're kind of getting into golf and you're new to it, or whatever stage you're in, they're like putt everything out, count every stroke, just be honest with yourself and your game, and then you can see where you're at and you can improve. But if you're just sort of out there just like hacking away, it's hard to like really know where you're at and like where
Putting it and picking it up before it gets to the hole sort of thing.
Yeah, or you're like, oh, that's like a 5-footer, that's a gimme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, cool. Other things we wanted to talk about today, having Brett here. Brett is literally like one of the smartest people I know with technology, and it's been awesome working with him this year. He began working with us earlier this year, and has filled this role with Chief Technology Officer. Brett has a great background, which we'll have him introduce himself and talk about, but really helping us advance a lot with our just overall technology plan, the things that we're doing, automation we're working on, reporting. and we're going to hit on that a little bit today.
So Brett, tell us a little bit about your experience and how you got into the role that you're in today.
Sure. So I started in 2007 or 8, just doing contract consultant work. Ended up landing a couple interesting contracts, one with Oracle and the Linux Foundation, state of California, and did a cool project with the Department of Defense, and started building developer networks and landed a job doing some marketing stuff with some email, and kind of rolled that into some entrepreneurial ventures. Started a handful of companies that didn't work out, and had one that really took off in 2011. It's called Smart Rhino Labs, and we started doing lead generation, and we kind of tacked on a call center after a while, and ended up selling that in 2018. And stuck around.
That's when I first met you, Brett.
Yeah.
Back then, when you guys were just beginning with Smart Rhino, and we did a little bit of a project together with some email data and working with ad knowledge.
We did that.
That was like a really early project for Squeeze.
Yeah.
With Smart Rhino.
Yeah, that was really early days. That might have even been in like Ironclad stuff that we were doing.
Ironclad was involved as well. Yeah.
It's kind of a hybrid there, but yeah, that was sort of when I first started getting into the marketing side of things. I've always been interested in technology and automation, which is really what sort of gets me up in the morning, is the automation stuff. And so I think when we started talking maybe like a year ago or something about helping out here and seeing what I could do, it was really you guys had a lot of good business practices and stuff, but it was a lot of manual steps and manual spreadsheets that you were generating. And I thought, I can come in there and I can make a real difference. And it was a lot of it was things that we had done at Smart Rhino Labs as well. So that was sort of intriguing. And I've been working with you guys for a handful of months now, and I think we've made some good progress. I think we're going to talk a lot about some of the AI things that we're doing, but just on like the automation and reporting and data centralization has been a huge play there. So yeah.
That's a great background.
So when you kind of learned about Squeeze, I remember when we kind of met for the first time. What was it that made you say, "Yeah, like I want to jump on this ship"?
Well, I think there's a couple things. I think from a work standpoint, it was okay. Is this something that I can really make a difference here? It's not just like a job that I can show up and get a paycheck, whatever. But is it something that I can join and really help be additive to the company and really help move the needle? And I think that was huge. But the second thing, and maybe this was even a bigger part of it, was the feel of the company. I feel like a lot of the people at the company have grown from the call floor. So there's this real homegrown family kind of culture. It's really friendly, warm culture. And everybody gets along really well. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of politics. There's no, it's not big enough that there's a lot of red tape and annoying stuff there. And I've been with a couple of companies that's a little frustrating. And I like the smaller feel. Relationships are strong, and so that was a couple things that really drew me to it.
Yeah. Obviously from your experience, you kind of like the being able to make a difference. It seems being a bigger cog and maybe a smaller machine is a little more fulfilling than. So
it's the 0 to 1, right? Where you're taking something and starting something. I love that. I love that phase where you're getting something going. Your decisions are really impactful on a very rapid basis. I love that.
Yeah, and we've rolled out some cool technology since you've been on board.
Yeah.
We came in and addressed some needs right at the beginning of the year and just started knocking them out one by one.
Just last week, we were driving down and making a long drive to St. George, and Brett and I were together, and I was talking about like a problem or something that maybe we could tackle. He's like, "Man, as soon as we get there in like an hour or so, I'm going to go to work on this. I'm going to start coding this tonight."
Yeah.
I was like, "We don't have to do that. We're just like going to enjoy ourselves tonight and just chill." But he's like, "No, I've got some ideas and I want to get the framework set on this." And so that's the thing I love about Brett. He's just like always like thinking about that next step, that next action. How do we put this into motion? How do we get something going? Definitely a man of action. That's the way I would describe.
And he
Brett.
seemed to enjoy it too.
Oh, I love it.
Because the next day we were talking about it too. Like, cause I golfed with you the next day, and you're like, "Yeah, I've been working on this. Like, I'm pretty excited.
I almost
think
had
I
it
can do
working
this."
that first night. It was not quite, but yeah, I remember we used to go to conferences, and we would, be like 3-day conference, and during the first day, you'd go rub shoulders with everybody, and talk through some ideas, and you'd get sort of the juices flowing, and a lot of times at conferences, people at 7 o'clock or so, they check out and they go to the bars and whatever. And, I don't drink. So it's, well, instead of going to the bar, I'm going to go back and pound out all that stuff that we just talked all day about building. So I'd work, and I know this is a monster, but I drank the sugar-free Red Bulls. That was my drink of choice at conferences. And I would do that and stay up till 2 a.m. and then I'd show up the next morning having built something.
You have a product.
It was like, whoa, what the heck? I love that. I loved like surprising people at, building a proof of concept or an MVP overnight. I love that.
Well, I remember when you first came in and the first project you were working on was the automated scorecards. And
yeah,
Carson hit me up like, I don't know, it felt like 2 weeks in or something. And all of a sudden he was like, hey, can you create this video? We're dropping this automated scorecard system and want to teach people how to use it. I'm like, how did we already have that done? So
yeah. Well,
there was a lot that had to happen before that too.
Yeah. We had to work a lot on sort of centralizing data and making sure that it's in one place and that we, are collecting all of it and that it is accurate and complete, and we have all the data points we need to be able to generate reports, right? So going into that, payroll automation piece was really, it's like a data problem more than anything. And once we had that, I've got a few developers in the quiver that help a lot. James Fry's.
Oh yeah, he's great.
And he's amazing. Shout out to James on the pod. But that's been, clutch, is having people that understand the industry, understand the problem, and being able to, deliver a solution that matches a manual process in an automated way. So I think we took a lot of man hours worth of labor out of the picture when we were automating that.
Something we've talked a lot about on this is beginning with the end in mind. And that was something we'd tried to do something similar to this a few different times. And you came in and saw the half-baked products that we'd kind of worked on. And what I loved is you came in and the first thing you did was kind of like an impact analysis. Like, okay, if we do this, how is this going to impact everything else? And what we thought was the scope ended up becoming so much bigger. So we thought we needed like client reporting portals and live dashboards. And all of a sudden that turned into performance tracking for our agents and billing and invoicing. And it became this technology that really is going to be unique to Squeeze. No one else has something like what we have, and it
it's like a business management platform.
It ties our whole business together now. Yeah. It's our source of truth at this point.
Yeah, and I think for a company like Squeeze, having a custom solution that really ties into your business logic, your business reporting needs, your needs for data out to your agents for payroll and billing and all that, like you said, like that sort of is a custom thing. You're not going to get like a Salesforce instance off the shelf that does what you need there. So I think making sure that you approach it, again, like with the end in mind. Okay, these are all the things that we're going to need. Let's make sure we get all the data in there, and then we can start building out those different views and reports on that. It's been a good project. Yeah.
I was going to say, just interjecting here, I love how you can attack a problem and come up with a solution with technology, but then also you're considering security in that decision and how you structure it, and then also building it for scalability, because that's something that not a lot of people can cover all three of those aspects when they're like, hey, I can build it fast, but it's not going to be secure and it's not going to be scalable, or one of the other two. And so anyway, that's a really unique skill set that you've got, Brett.
And the way that we've built it too, we find that there's another need, and we have all of the data there that we need to be able to add a feature instead of a lot of times in the development world. If you need to add another feature, you've basically got to go back to the beginning and replumb
from scratch. Yeah.
And that's not been our experience at all.
Yeah, we kind of knew what the total amount or total different data points that we would need. We knew what that would be, having come from the Smart Rhino Labs company and everything we built there. We understood generally what we were going to want to be building and what data points would be needed for that. So, there's still some stuff that we will add on as we go, but I think we were able to leverage a lot of what we learned previously into building stuff at Squeeze. Your business model is different, and you have different metrics that you care about and things like that, but a lot of the data points are similar.
So when you're looking to implement a new tech solution, what are the things that you take into consideration? Like if you could say, as you are going through that process of scoping it out and deciding if it's the best, course of action, what are the things that you consider?
Yeah, I think if it's a system we're going to build, I guess there's probably before that, there's usually like a build versus buy discussion, right? There's like, is this something that we can get a solution off the shelf that meets our needs, that is within a price range that makes sense, or is it too expensive and it would make more sense for us to build it? And then and generally you have to do sort of a lightweight like architecting and planning kind of discussion to wrap your head around what it would look like to build it on your own, because you have to have that in order to kind of identify whether you want to build or buy it. But after going through that, when we identified, okay, this is something we want to build, then we start architecting it out, and that's like a huge process. There's a lot. I could spend 8 podcasts talking about steps of those, right? But I think the build versus buy is sort of the first decision you have to make in a lot of places. Where is this something that is a strategic advantage of ours? If it's something that is a strategic advantage, this is like our secret sauce is going to live in this thing, you're much more likely to need to build that than get something off the shelf. Because by definition, if it's off the shelf, everybody has it, right? It's not something that's unique.
How often are you having to do that build versus buy? Like what's...
I think in my role as CTO across lots of different companies and projects and organizations, I do that a lot. That's like one of my main roles, is to help facilitate collecting the data and making those decisions. A lot of times the CTOs sort of run teams of developers, right? And that's one of their main roles. But you run teams of developers on projects that you're going to develop, but you have to also manage decisions of software platforms and things like that. So sort of I would say that happens a lot. I don't have like a frequency there, but it's a big role.
Well, I think a good example of this is what we've done with AI internally. We have a new product it's Squeeze property, and we're really, really excited about it. It's called Peel, P-E-E-L. It's performance enhancement and engagement learning. It's basically an AI machine learning software that allows us to quantify qualitative data. So we can take things like customer sentiment, customer conversations, sales pitches, and we can now put numbers and scores on all of those things to help give us recommendations to improve the sales experience from point A to the transaction. So what was this really was a lot of kind of your brainchild.
Yeah.
So talk us through how you realized this is something that we need.
Yeah, well,
we're already using it and getting a ton of value from it too. On the quality assurance side, like obviously our ability to QA the volume of calls and the insurance that it is to be able to recognize these flags, but it's much more than just a quality assurance tool.
And I think you hit the nail on the head there. It started out as a quality assurance tool. Like, let's make sure that we're saying the things that we should be saying and that we're not saying things that we don't want said. But once we got a framework in place to be able to do that, bare bones analysis, it was like, hey, we can layer on a lot of these large language models, these LLMs, like ChatGPT style analysis. We can take calls and call recordings and transcriptions and all this data, and we can throw it at a model and ask it things in a more natural language way to be able to pull some things out. And then we can ask questions of our calls and get data out that we can then sort of summarize for executives, or we can ask more questions that are less easy to tease out with exact phrases, which is sort of historically what you had to do. You had to look for exact phrases, or you had to have a human review it. A lot of times that's how QA was done. So we've been able to tease out things more effectively and to get more intelligence out of these, call recordings and call data.
Well, I think what you've done by building that versus buying it, there's a lot of solutions, which I've talked about, like on LinkedIn, where I get hit up like almost daily around buy this AI solution. We have an AI solution for you to improve this or that. I kind of believe that there's not really like an off the shelf product that's going to do exactly what we want it to do and improve AI seems like it's all about just improving what you're doing and streamlining things and making things just simpler and more effective, more efficiency. You're gaining a lot of efficiency with AI and the solutions that are out there in the market. I'm like, okay, we could buy this, but then what are the odds we're going to plug this in and see the result we're looking for? And what you're coming up with, Brett, and what we've developed with Peel really is going to improve our process with our agents. And it's also going to give us information on our customers and the people that we're talking to, data that we can use. And then it's also going to give us insights on the sales agents that we're transferring calls to that we can provide back to our clients to let them know, okay, this is what, we handed over 1,000 sales opportunities to your team and on this many, this percentage of calls or these specific calls, you may want to work with these specific agents about these specific things. And that's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
So, especially when our partners are returning to us funding and transaction data, we can then create a large sample of these calls and these populations, and we can analyze those and figure out what happened here that didn't happen on these other ones. And that could be on our end, or it could be something that our partners, their sales teams are doing that's making something more prone to transact or that's creating a better customer experience.
And we built it with a few things in mind. One thing that I believe about AI is that the general purpose models are going to continue to get better at a rate faster than at a very fast rate. Now, what that means is it probably doesn't make sense for us to actually train our own models, because by the time you can spend a crap ton of money. You can spend millions of dollars training a model, and a year later it could be obsolete. So I don't really want to train my own model. I want to leverage these ever increasingly improving models. And so we built our system with that in mind. But then also I want to be able to take this data and tie it into like scorecards. And
just so everyone knows, scorecards is what we use for our agents to track their pay on a weekly basis.
And I want to be able to roll that up by agent, roll that up by campaign, roll that up by team lead, like any different sort of way I want to slice and dice that. And so us being able to leverage whatever model makes sense at the time, like right now we're using Anthropic's Claude, but there's no magic to that right now. The O1 preview from OpenAI is promising, and maybe we can switch to that. And 6 months from now, there'll be a much better model than either of those. So I don't want to get married to one model. And so that's how I've been approaching AI is let's build tools that leverage the best models and hit our business objectives and make sure that data is available in a format that we can process it and internally and do what we need with it.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. We've obviously I've been with Squeeze for almost 10 years, and we've had processes that have worked really well for a long time. And there's principles that we don't deviate from. We've talked a lot about this being consistent in our principles, but one of our values is that we are cutting edge and we're willing to invest in becoming better. And that's something that I've really seen over the last year. We've got all of these systems now that are going to make us so much better and so much more efficient. Yeah. And I'm excited for 2025 because we know that learning curve is accelerating very quickly, and we're going to get a lot better. And we're already, our customers are thrilled, But there's a lot more that we can do to deliver value at no cost to our customer. It's just something that we want to do to deliver a greater service.
And I think we can set the company up so that with some automated, data analysis and processes and things that remove really manual and time-intensive tasks, we can make it so that you could like double or triple the size of the company, the number of clients without blowing your head count out and adding a layer of complexity there. I think we can keep it simple and get the people the data they need to make decisions like in real time, as opposed to waiting a long time for data and reports to be generated. We should be doing that automatically.
I think a lot of times when people or when our partners look at us, there can be a tendency, if you don't know everything that's happening, just to look at us as like bodies in seats.
Yeah.
Smiling and dialing, when really we invest so much in creating a great sales experience and customer experience, being an extension of their brand and delivering value, maybe even more value than they would be able to get with their internal team usually.
Yeah.
And that puts us in a really unique position where we go from a cost center to a revenue center because of all of these things that we specialize in and all of this investment that we've made into learning how to be really, really, really good at something.
And I think a lot of the AI analysis is going to enable you to provide more actionable feedback to agents, team leads, campaign managers, and the sales teams on the other side of the call, right? So that's going to facilitate improvement. That's going to have a tighter feedback loop.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And every chief marketing officer, chief brand officer, what they're worried about is customer sentiment.
Yeah.
They want to know, we're front lines, we're having interactions with their customers. What are their customers saying? How are they feeling? We're now able to deliver that.
Yep.
And that's outside of anything that has to do with really the sales process, but it is something that's sales adjacent. That
Protecting your brand
Yep.
and making sure that the experience is on brand and everything. Yeah.
Exactly. It's exciting. Well, we appreciate everything you're doing.
Thanks. That's been
We're
a lot of
excited.
fun.
Onwards.
Keep it going.
Onwards and upwards.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. You mentioned shout out to James Fry. He's like our senior
He's
engineer.
a ninja. Yeah.
And he's just amazing. We've enjoyed working with James, and you guys make a great team. So yeah, shout out to you guys.
Well, thanks for talking us through kind of your thought process with how you approach these real business problems with the tech mind. We've certainly can attest to everything that you've talked about. We're really excited for what's to come.
I had some, this is just like sort of a question, like shifting gears a little bit. One-to-one consent is something that's like on everyone's radar right now that's in our industry. And it's, for those of you that aren't familiar, I think we've hit on it a few times in this pod so far this year. But since about May or June, I think it became to light that the FCC, FTC were launching this, change in the regulations where no longer could you have someone opt in on your website. There's a number of different companies out there. I won't name names, but it may be like a portal where you fill out your information as a consumer, you opt in, and then that lead is then sold 5, 6, 7, 8 times, 10 times. The data gets brokered out to 1 million different people. And you don't know, you opt in with this website and you give permission to them and all of their partners. You don't know who those partners are.
Yeah.
And you get, hundreds of calls, thousands of calls, your phone's blowing up. And now it's one-to-one consent, which means when you opt in on a website with a brand, it's one-to-one consent. So you're providing consent to them for them to call you and only them. And no longer can that data be resold. And if it is, then you face legal challenges and potential fines and things like that. And so that's impacting a lot of companies, and it's changing the technology because one of the things I think all those companies are concerned about is it's costing me X amount of dollars in media to generate that consumer to fill out that form and submit. And then I've got, X number of times I can sell that lead before it loses its value. I know my ROI is, going to be X. Well, now that's changing and you can only generate a lead, you spend on the media and it's only going to be sold once.
Yeah.
So, Brett, what are some of the thoughts that you've had as you've sort of been exploring like this problem and this challenge that's it's affecting the whole industry?
Yeah.
How's that going to play out from a technology standpoint?
Yeah. So I think from a timeline perspective, that kicks in at the end of January. I think it's the 26th or 7th or something. But a lot of people will go back 90 days to to market to people. They'll have 90-day long, call cadences where they sort of rest them and then call them again.
So that was this week.
Right. So that was this week. That was my point, that it's starting to affect now because people are either going to have to change their call cadences or change how they're collecting these leads and this lead data. So, and I think we've had clients already reach out to us that might be feeling a little bit behind the 8 ball and wondering how they're going to tackle it. And I think we've developed a couple technology solutions that can enable you to get a one-on-one consent. If you have someone like on the phone, you can send them a text message with links to get them to fill that out right there and gather it. So that's one way we can tackle it. There's a couple.
Some combination of live conversation and SMS message with a form submit, where they agree to terms and conditions and things like that.
Yeah, and you generate the consent on that page while you have them on the phone, and then you could transfer them to your partner that you just got consent for, right? So that would be one thing that people could do. I think there are some flows that have been brought up in the industry as being approved or seemingly would be approved to be able to capture consent for multiple companies on the same page, but it would mean you'd have to take them through a multi-step form or have a checkbox with a disclosure for each one of the companies that you were sending it to. So there's some things like that can work. We'll see sort of how that shakes out. I think there's probably going to be some lawsuits next year, maybe in Q1, maybe roll into Q2, but there'll be some lawsuits and some case law that will sort of codify what the actual rules are there. But I think we're taking a conservative approach and just doing one-to-one and trying to collect that secondary consent on a separate form completely if we need to do that for a client. So
it's one of the things that there's a couple of conclusions a lot of people are making, and that is, one, lead costs are going to go up because the efficiencies are going away. So that's going to make things more expensive for the consumer. You talk about with some of these laws, we are fully on board with compliance and making sure that we're doing things according to law. But there's unintended consequences, and one of them is going to be it's more expensive. Well, who's going to pay for more expensive? Who's going to cover that cost?
Well,
Consumers, ultimately, right? So that's sort of a negative impact that's going to be felt. Costs may go up further. Another, when you think about the, just the process of this, it's going to, you have to, come up with technology solutions to make it more efficient. So,
And I think back in our recruiting days at Smart Rhino Labs, sometimes they sell a shared lead for $2, $3, $5. But if you were to send that same traffic to a lead that was just meant for a single trucking company, whatever, that would sell for anywhere from $30 to $50. So they're selling it 10, 15 times to different trucking companies to recruit for that. So
that can be a bad customer experience.
They're gonna get 25 calls on day one.
Yep. And honestly, at that point, the people who talk to them first are going to get them, right? So
they will say, "Don't pick up the phone. Everyone's going to be calling you."
I kind of, in my last comment I was making, I kind of forgot about the second part of what I was going to say, and I remembered and just recalled it. And that is, and this has come up from a couple of our partners who have said, when it's going to be harder for smaller brands to compete in this new market.
I was going to say that because the brands you recognize, when
you're presented with, hey, do you want to speak with, I'll just say Rocket Mortgage, or do you want to speak with, ABC Mortgage Company,
Bob's Mortgage Group.
Who do you think the consumer is going to select in that? The one that they are most familiar with the brand. So it's going to create kind of almost more monopoly type stuff, in the market. I think that's another unintended consequence of this regulation. And it's unfortunate because I think the small companies are always trying to compete against those big companies. And, this just kind of further compounds that problem for the smaller brands that are out there trying to compete, where they're going to face a higher cost, and it's going to be, even more expensive for them because they're going to have to throw more dollars at it. And whereas those big brands are going to naturally get a lot of the clicks from the consumers.
Yeah.
On the other hand, constraint brings innovation, and more problems bring
Absolutely.
unique solutions.
Well,
and I'm sure there will be creative solutions that we haven't even thought of yet.
This isn't the first TCPA revision that's happened, right? Like we went through this at Smart Rhinos back in 2013, and I think again in 2017 or so. There's multiples of these where they would come out with new rules about whether you could have a pre-checked box or whether the text had to be above the button. And honestly, every time this happened, there were some, not like bad actors, but sort of people who operated in a more gray area where they're trying to almost trick the consumers a little bit. And when the rules would come out and say, okay, you can't pre-check the box, you saw some players, leave the space and they'd go play in a different area. And the people that stuck around, usually had more business. They usually had more clients willing to work with them. And I think prices generally did end up going up, but it sort of benefited everybody. You get higher conversion rates because there's more intent. It's a better lead. So I think the same thing is going to happen, and you'll see it over the next 3 to 6 months where prices for leads will go up. Volumes across the board on some of the lower intent, lower tier leads will probably go down. And the people that stick around are going to hang with the new rules, and it'll be fine.
Which all of those things make it even more imperative that you have a really great contact strategy or a strategic partner that can get the most out of your lead spend.
Yeah.
So, if you need that.
Lead opportunities.
Lead
opportunities become more scarce.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be on your game with that. So contact rate, and when you get a consumer on the phone, you don't want to flub that call. You want to convert it.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
well, and something else that I think they may not have considered is now, because of that one-to-one consent, every customer interaction has to be branded.
that's right.
Yeah.
Because you are representing the brand on every single. I've been trying to purchase something, and my credit was run, and I've probably gotten 30 calls this week, and some of them have branded calls, some of them just have local presence, some of them are telemarketing, and all the different labels that they have. And with one-to-one, in theory, there should be one person calling you, and you should have a really buttoned up customer experience to ensure that conversion happens on the other end.
Yep.
And I think, we're less than 90 days away from this rolling out now, and there's still a lot of people who are just kind of hearing about it and learning about it. And, I had a business friend of mine and business acquaintance. He just reached out to me last night, in fact, and was like, hey, I'm brokering data now, and, how is this one-to-one consent going to impact? And I'm like, I don't know if you're not brokering data has been a tough gig for quite a while, but that's going to be kind of going away, honestly. Like, you're not going to be able to broker lead data. And if you do, you're taking some big risks, or maybe like putting big risks on whoever you're selling that data to.
It's like selling landline telephones. It's a little too late.
Well, I think some people are kind of putting their head in the sand on this, hoping that like they'll withdraw the rule or something. I don't know what they're like hoping happens, but having lived through a few of these TCPA revisions, like it's just going to shake the tree a little, and some people are going to not be able to hang with it.
The train's left the station there, so
yeah, I don't know how you do data brokerage in this
you can't.
realm. That's tricky.
Yeah. Well, just sort of final thoughts. This is kind of when we wrap up this. This has been kind of one of our longer episodes, actually. We've talked about quite a bit here. Just sort of final thoughts as we close things up. I'll turn some time over here to Jacob and then Justin.
Yeah, I think something that really stuck out to me is when you have a business problem, don't take shortcuts. Plan it out and think about it. And once again, begin with the end in mind, because if you take the time early on to build something that's scalable, that implements or that integrates with all of your different platforms and the processes that you have, at the end of the day, you're going to have a solution that's so much more useful and efficient and effective. Whereas if you don't do that, it'll end up being something that costs you a lot more as you build something that you don't really need or that doesn't really serve the function that you need it to.
Yeah, good comment. Well, first of all, Brett, we're glad we have you. Like, you've done incredible things with us in a short amount of time. So I think for me is there's always a solution, and you don't give up until you go get the right solution, right? Like you might have done the buying process at some point or another and regretted that, and now you need to go find somebody to build something out for you, and make sure you find what's actually going to fit your needs. And I think that's incredibly important. Don't just settle in the end.
Yeah, my final thought, and I'll turn it over to Brett to sort of close up and give his summary, is that, likewise, just like Justin said, appreciate having you here on the team to help us figure out some of these technology issues that we have. And, I'm kind of one that I really want to see more and more standardized processes in the business. If we have sort of, we always want to look for new ways of doing things. Certainly, we don't want to just stick with what we've done, but it's always good when you have sort of a standardized processes, then you can automate those things. It really allows efficiency, and it allows automation, and it allows, I think that's what people are looking for in the market when they're looking at like companies. And that's really what we're trying to build here. And so having Brett look at those things from a technology lens and helping us build solutions for these issues, and continuing to automate or standardize and automate some of our business rules and processes, I think has been a huge benefit, and one that we want to continue working on. But excited to see more developments in AI that we're working on, and efficiency that's going to bring. So
I feel like that's a lot of weight to like close out the podcast, but that's okay. I'll take a stab at it. No, I'm excited at what we've been able to do in a handful of months, and I think it's just getting started. I think we're approaching things sort of trying to build parity with some manual processes and then improve on them. So, we did that with scorecards. We're doing that with reporting, doing that with QA and the AI stuff. Build a base layer and then let's improve on it. And I think if we do things the right way, we can make some really big moves in extracting intelligence out of things, and make it so that there's more of a barrier to what we do. And it's not just, people in seats. It's a great sales process with an awesome feedback loop. And I think that's just the start. And totally want to leverage AI along the way. I think that's going to be a big player in everything we do going forward. And it's going to augment everybody's jobs eventually. So, yeah.
Terrific. Well, this has been the Juice Consumer Direct Podcast. Thanks for watching. We've got some more fun guests that are lined up here coming up, industry experts in the lead generation space. We really want this to resonate. It's really good for all business people to watch, but we want to really cater toward those that are in lead generation and dealing with some of the challenges that we face and have solved. And so thanks for watching, and don't forget to engage with us online.
Yeah, any questions or comments, leave them below, and we'll make sure to get to them.
Like and subscribe.
Send it shocking.